Today's episode is brought to you by Patreon. If you're interested in supporting the show, go to patreon.com/JoshuaVelas and become a $2 backer today and get early access to the new episodes. I'll be leaving a link in the description down below, but for now, on to today's episode. You're listening to the Augmented Experience podcast. I'm your host, as usual, Joshua Velas. I'm a student, musician, and a gamer at heart. Join me as I sit down every week to talk about all the latest news in the technology, business, and video game world. I hope you guys enjoy. All right, everybody, welcome back to the show. My name is Joshua Velas. I'm your host as usual, and obviously welcome back to the show. Today's episode 211 of the show, and before we get started, we're going to do a bit of house cleaning quick because, well, we didn't do this last week, so let's just get on with the house cleaning. I do want to say thank you guys for coming back and listening to today's episode. It does mean a lot to me. You guys constantly take time in your days to download these episodes, to share these episodes, to constantly keep letting me know whether you like my stupid face or not, or my opinions, which, hey, you get to see my face. Well, this time you get to see my face, so I'm excited because last week we did not do an episode last week, so, took a little bit of a week off. However, that's the whole point of this week's episode, is to talk about why there was no episode last week and talk about what happened. But I did just want to take some time to just say thank you to everybody. Thank you for supporting the show, for downloading these episodes, for sharing them, for constantly, again, I keep saying that, for letting me know how you feel, because whether you guys realize it or not, you guys do play a big part in doing all of this stuff. If we're just being honest here, let's be real here. You guys do, because you guys vote on the topics. You guys let me know how you feel about said topics. And, well, you guys are supporting me, and I really appreciate that. Whether you listen to the audio versions on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, where we like to listen to your podcast, or you're watching the video versions on YouTube, at the end of the day, you guys are supporting me, and I greatly appreciate it. So thank you for that. I really appreciate it. Thank you to the Patreon backers as well for supporting the show. But it only makes sense that we talk about what happened last week, where we were. And so I do want to give a little bit of context before we go into the main overarching idea of this entire episode, which the overarching idea is talking about this idea of the broken perspective. And I'm not going to emphasize specifically so much on the broken perspective, because to be honest, I want to save this as a real talk a little bit later down the line. However, I want to talk about the trip under the guise of using that idea. So let's explain what happened. So what necessarily happened, what led to this trip, what caused me to want to do this trip, what happened on said trip, and then what happened as a result of said trip. So here's a little bit of context for the story. In January, when I came back for my spring semester of college, it was my first service at Redeemer back for the semester, and they were talking about the spring trips. Usually the Redeemer church, like the church that I go to here in Lubbock, called Redeemer, they like to do spring break trips and summer trips, and they like planning for them in January at the start of the year, just so they can get a feel for who's interested, who wants to go, and then all the preparations that go into them. And every single year, I had always been like, that's cool, I'm just not interested. I feel like that wasn't for me. Like, I just didn't see the benefit, or, I always thought money was a bit tight. I thought, hey, I can't make this happen. And something this time made me start thinking, well, let's just do the application. Let's just throw our name out there. Let's see what happens. Fast forward a couple weeks later, I get a phone call saying, hey, we'd like to talk to you, discuss about, your interest in the trip. And originally I was supposed to go to Toronto. That was the original trip that I was the most interested in, that I wanted to go to Toronto. And that got canceled due to the circumstances going on in Toronto. So I was given another option. Would you like to go on the New York trip? And I said, hey, that was my second option. Sure, why not? Let's go to New York. Let's have some fun. However, I also realized in the back of my heart, I'm like, okay, this is happening. This is happening for a reason. And so when I was doing my prayer walks, I was genuinely just asking God, Lord, I saw what you were able to do in a week when I was 16 years old. When I was 16 years old, I was still in a rough space. I was still not where I'm at now, if I'm just being completely open and honest. When I was at 16, I was still dealing with a lot of depression. I was still dealing with a lot of hurt that was in my life. I was still dealing with the backlash, or not the backlash, but more of the after effects after my aunt and my grandmother had passed away. And that's when I met my mentors. They helped me out. They gave me a lot of resources that helped really add context to a lot of the things that I grew up believing. And to me, after going to that Young Life camp, it changed everything. It changed my perspective on life. It changed how I viewed life. Instead of being so bitter, instead of being so cold, instead of feeling like nobody understands how I feel, in reality, people did. It helped me learn to put into context a lot of the things that had happened in my life and realize, hey, everything does happen for a reason. I know that sounds super cliche, but I learned to realize, like, hey, it really does happen for a reason, whether you think about it or not. And sometimes those reasons, yeah, they suck. Let's just be real here. Like, people dying sucks. I wish it never happened. I wish we never had to say goodbye to people that we loved, but we do. But the beautiful thing in all that is there's also a positive in that, is because of those people no longer being here, or maybe the effect that that person passing has on somebody, it can lead to something good. It can lead to a change in somebody for the better and help them to realize something, that, hey, not everyone, or living a life where it's either your way, the highway, doesn't necessarily work. It's not healthy. It doesn't lead to anything good. Maybe thinking you're bulletproof is not a good way of looking at life or living your life. And my life changed forever. And so during my prayer walks, I was like, God, I saw what you're able to do in a week of me just focusing on you, drawing close to you, and just wanting more of you. Lord, if this is your will, what do you have for me? If this is what you really have for me, like, then I know everything will be fine. I know the finances will be perfectly fine. I won't have to spend a dime and everything will be fine. If this is what you have for me, it will work itself out and I will be on that plane to New York. And so I said, yes. I said, for me, I always like helping people. I always like having the opportunity to serve others and interact with people and get to know their stories, understand why they believe what they believe, and just have that conversation, like have those difficult conversations and really engage people in a way that is thoughtful, intentional, and showing that I do care about them. Fast forward, the trip gets paid off and I didn't drop a dime, whether it be donations from people that I wasn't expecting for them to pay the majority of the trip, whether it be family, friends, or specifically the church back home, the small Hispanic church that I go to or grew up in. They helped pay for the majority of the trip because they believed that something good was going to happen on this trip. I was adamant, I was firm that, look, going into this trip, if I can just be open and honest with you guys, because I always like being that way. For the past 3 years, I was extremely bitter. I was bitter. I was upset. I was frustrated, whether it be with the relationship breakup, whether it be towards God, because I thought it wasn't fair that I was single. I thought it didn't make sense that I couldn't just have a good relationship. It didn't make sense that things just couldn't go my way, that I could finally get the thing that I always wanted. And that was hard. That made me bitter. And it's like I always say, that old saying of what doesn't kill you makes you stronger. And while I do agree with that on some extent, I do also acknowledge, well, yes, it may not kill you. It can make you bitter. That bitterness just slowly builds up and eats you up on the inside. It slowly makes you a little bit more cold, and not necessarily making you jaded, but it does make you a little bit less trusting of others. It does make you question people's intentions. It helps you not really look at life in a very positive way. Instead, it helps you to be cold towards a lot of things, even towards the ones that really love and care about you. And so I was like, look, I need to get well. There's a lot of things going on in me that, hey man, I need to get resolved. I really just need to do what I always do best, that the best way that I'm able to grow is when I take myself out of my comfort zone, go somewhere that I've never gone before, and do something that really means something. And for me, going to New York, a place that I've never been before, doing missionary work with a local church with people I've never met before a day in my life, whether it be people at Redeemer or the people that we met over there. And to be honest, it was breathtaking going over there. Like I said, I've never been to New York. I've never I could see movies about New York or video games that, reference New York or inspired by New York. And for me, just being there was, wow. It's so massive. It's so big. I'm like, even though, I grew up in Dallas, which is considered a big city, it's nothing compared to literally the biggest city in America. One of the most diverse cities in the entire world, where there's people from all over the world, even in local communities that are so diverse and so cram-packed with culture, traditions. It was kind of sensory overload, if I'm being honest with you. And for me, I was having the time of my life. Just seeing everything, just having that feeling of, as a little kid, just being in awe and wonder. But when it came time to do work with a local church, man, you want to talk about incredible. You want to talk about something that really makes you want to put things in perspective. It changed a lot. It helped me to go back to that way that I was, of being more hopeful, of being more optimistic. Well, yes, still being realistic, still being honest, of being mindful of the things around you, not being blind or naive. But it helped me learn to go back to that way of not just talking about the big picture, but actually seeing the bigger picture, of actually wanting to be involved in the bigger picture, of actually wanting to look at the better days ahead rather than sitting on the thoughts of the past and letting those past hurts, past experiences play over and over and over in my head. And just those conversations that I had with the local community, that church that we were working with, and just listening to them talk about what they've been through, what they're going through, how open, how honest, how intentional they are, acknowledging that, yes, life sucks. Life is hard. There's going to be days where it's going to kick you in the teeth and you're just going to have to be okay with it. But they still had faith that there are better days ahead. And to me, I know I always like saying that to the younger guys that I mentor. But for me, it was kind of a wake-up call of saying, hey, bud, time to wake up. It's time to focus. It's time to refocus. It's okay. We get it. You've been hurt in a way that is very close, very emotional, very personal. The way you get hurt the most is by the people that you love the most. And for me, I was like, the trip not only helped deal with some of that bitterness, helped me to really put into perspective why I was bitter. Helped me put into perspective why did I feel like my heart was getting colder. It was helping me not only address and really figure out what was I mad at, what was I bitter towards, but it also helped me learn to forgive and to let go and to move forward, to move on. And for me, it's kind of funny that the person that told me that, they were open and honest with me. Though, look, bud, I'm not the best person to tell you how to move on because I'm not that good at it. But what I will say is that you're a smart guy. You like to think a lot. How about, instead of using that brain power that you have and replaying scenarios in your head, trying to think how things could play out differently, what if you were to use that and focus on something else? What if you were able to really be content in something else? Not be distracted by something else just to take your mind off it, but rather genuinely do something else that you love. do something that leads to healthy results, that leads to healthy outcomes in life. And as you start to do more and more of that, and in my case, it is growing closer to God. It is being more active in my community. It is being more engaged with those around me, to really love on the people around me. I start to not think about that past hurt so much. It helps me to not think so much about that relationship that just didn't go well, even though I wish it did. And for me, this trip changed a lot. For me, it, just being honest, it put a smile back on my face. It gave me my smile back. And it's something that, if I can just be honest and transparent, it's something that I haven't felt in a very long time. And yeah, I get it. I had a lot of reasons to be bitter over the past 3 years. Failed relationship. I lose my grandfather during COVID. I can't see my grandfather. Heck, I didn't even get to see a video of my grandfather on his deathbed. My aunt passed away and I couldn't be there to see her. Heck, we got, like, if I'm just being honest, I know I keep saying that a lot, but, you know, we were given hope that my aunt was going to pull through, and in that whole span of a month, she ended up still dying in the end. Fast forward to more relationship issues. Fast forward to not the best of luck with girls. Fast forward to stress with the job here on campus. Fast forward to losing friendships along the way, building, like, trusting some people, and then just having your hopes and dreams shattered. I had a lot of reasons to be bitter. I had a lot of reasons to be cold towards people. I had a lot of reasons to be physically present in a place, but be mentally somewhere else. But I learned to let go of that. It was a broken perspective that needed to be corrected. It's like I always like to say you have a watch and it breaks. Are you going to try to fix it on your own and probably mess it up, which you probably will? Or are you going to send it to the maker who made that thing? Or in this case, who made that watch, that knows everything about that watch, that knows every single detail, that knows everything about that watch and more than you will ever know about it. Are you going to send it to him so that he can fix it? And in my case, the only one who could really fix me and really fix this broken perspective was me getting closer to God and finding ways to just grow in my affection towards him, to grow in wanting to know more about him. And the reality is, besides the local church, even the group I was with encouraged me, because they've all been through stuff. From the conversations that I've had with them, whether it be little or actually long conversations, they've all been through some stuff based on their stories. They've all been through something. And trust me, they've been kicked in the teeth just as much as I have, if not more. And they still found a way to be content. They still found a way to keep moving forward, even when it was hard. And it's funny because that was the exact advice that my grandfather gave us long before he passed, that he always gave my mom and my aunts and them when they were little girls, which was, the Brennas do not bend into any of the problems, but rather they pick themselves up, dust themselves off, and keep moving forward, even when it's hard. I find it interesting too that when I finally had my eyes cleaned, or that perspective adjusted and finally made good, or I'd say finally corrected, I looked over Psalm 73 again, and I realized this psalm literally describes how I felt over the past 3 years. When it talks about that my heart was embittered, or that my soul was bitter and my heart was pricked. I was like a beast towards you, God. That was like, this thing literally describes the broken perspective that I had, that bitterness, that hurt that had really started to cloud my judgment, that really led me to make some poor decisions, to be honest. And you notice that the second half of it begins the process of showing when that perspective changed, because that Psalms talks about in the beginning how that person was jealous at the wicked, that people that just scum of the earth were constantly getting everything they wanted, were constantly getting, all the girls, getting all the money, getting all the promotions. And then this person that was doing the right thing, was always choosing to make the right calls, was just getting absolutely jack squat. And to me, that kind of that hit home for me, because it's like, yeah, I always kept getting told, you're a great guy, you're smart, you're funny, you're kind, you're caring, you're selfless. You're always willing to put the needs of others before yourself. You're willing to take a bullet for the people that you love and care about. And yet no girl wants to pick you, while your friends are out there getting married, talking about having kids. People are graduating, people are getting great jobs, their side hustles are doing amazing. And that stuff started to add up. And yeah, I was happy for the people, my friends that were getting married and stuff, but on some levels it was making me bitter. It was making me start to think, look, maybe getting married just isn't for me, man. Maybe it's just, I'm not supposed to get married, or I'm not, I got no chance. And for me, this trip helped me to realize, look, bud, everything has its time and place. But you have to learn to truly be content on your own. You have to learn to be truly content when it's just you and God. You have to be complete with God first, because if you can't even do that, how are you going to love somebody else? If you can't truly love God all with everything, you have to be willing to trust him with everything. And you have to be willing to let go of these past hurts. You have to be willing to let go of these bad habits, these bad choices that you're making that honestly ain't leading you anywhere good, bud. And when I started to realize that, I started to see some good stuff. She, like, just being honest, she's probably never going to watch this anyways. But yeah, there was somebody that started to catch my interest. There was somebody that, or there is somebody that caught my interest. I can't say was, because, well, she kind of has my attention right now. And it's very interesting, because it's like, even if things don't work out with this girl, the beautiful thing in all of this is that I now know what to look for, that I had a physical example in front of me, that I know exactly what the type of person that I'm looking for is, that I now know that that person does exist, that person that has those type of character traits is real, that it's not just this hypothetical situation that we wish we could have. No, there are people out there. And it just makes me want to be like, I'm going to be pursuing that, because I guarantee you, finding someone that has those character traits, yeah, some people could say it's rare, but man, that's going to lead to a great, great marriage. And I'm excited. I'm excited to see how everything turns out, because for the first time, it feels like I'm alive. Or the first time in a while, I feel alive. I feel truly content. I feel joy. And now it's just, let's keep this up. Let's keep the momentum going. Let's use this renewed perspective from broken to healed. Well, yes, things are not perfect. It just, it's not all sunshine and rainbows, but at least progress has been made to the point that we can keep making more progress. And if, to be honest, I would love to go back to New York. Could I live there? Probably not. I'm just being honest with you. It's a little bit too expensive for my blood, homie. Let's just be real here. Kind of hurt my bank account looking at some of those food prices. Just being honest with you. But I'm excited to see how things turn out going forward. And I hope you guys enjoy. I know I posted a lot of pictures about the trip on my social medias. If you guys want to go see that, just click the links down below. You'll be able to see them on my social medias. But guys, I love you guys to death. You guys have been incredible. I hope you guys enjoy this episode. I hope this episode has been encouraging to some of you guys, of me just pouring out my heart and just sharing with you guys what I was going through, what I was thinking, like what I really got out of that trip. Because to be honest, guys, it changed a lot of things. It put a lot of things in perspective, and it helped me really appreciate what I have and not be bitter about what I don't have. It helped me learn to trust God more with his timing, because he knows what he's doing. I don't know what I'm doing. He does, though. He knows everything. He literally has everything under control. I just have to be willing to trust him with it. Or I say trust him with everything. But at the end of the day, guys, I love you guys to death. I hope this episode was helpful and encouraging. I love you guys to death. Please have yourselves a wonderful week and weekend. We will be back to a more traditional news break. I know there's plenty of news going around, and especially because next month is going to be even crazier. But we definitely got a lot of news coming your way, guys. But I hope you guys enjoy. I hope this episode was helpful. I know I keep saying that a lot, but I really, really hope that it was helpful and that you guys enjoyed it. And if you want to see stuff about the trip, just click the links down below. You'll see pictures. I might even post more stuff about it a little bit later. But enjoy, guys. I hope you guys are safe. I hope you guys continue to take care of those around you, because the world is still a weird place, guys. Please continue to be kind and courteous. And as always, don't do anything dumb. Patreon backers, thank you guys for your love and support. And I will see you guys all next week. Bye, guys.
Hey there. Thank you for listening to today's episode. I really appreciate it. Thank you guys so much for taking time out of your day and listening to today's episode. If you're interested in supporting the show, whether it be financially, clicking the follow button, or just sharing the episode, it all works for me, guys. Thank you guys so much for your time, and I love you guys to death.